This video explores work on stress. The article from Mind, Brain and Education considers the effects of stress on children's learning. We now know that, in addition to bodily changes, stress also associates with other, more subtle mental changes, and we know that children are as affected by stress, if not even more so, than are adults. The amount of stress that we're exposed to has a long-term influence on multiple aspects of our neural and physical development. In educational settings, an individual's level of stress response in a given situation influences their learning capacities in complex ways. The term stress is used with a variety of different meanings by researchers in different fields. Distinction is commonly made between short-term and long-term, along clarity of start and end points. We respond to stress in different ways. On encountering something that causes stress, changes are triggered in different signaling chemicals in the brain. As a result, there is a change in activity in brain areas involved in arousal, alertness, and attention. These responses are known as the fast-acting sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, response. There are also reductions in activity in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is involved in the more slow-acting and response-dampening rest or digest responses. Resilience is the capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, adversity, trauma, or tragedy. The word capacity implies the possibility of increasing one's capability to deal with stress and suggests not only bouncing back and recouping faster, but also neutralizing or even preventing some of the negative consequences. Some individuals are more sensitive than others to environmental influences. Children who are more sensitive to environmental influences have been argued to respond differently, not only to adversity, but also to positive experiences. Emotional neglect during childhood has been associated with long-term changes in parts of the brain involved in memory and learning, which appear to be most severe in the brain regions involved in processing emotional information. In addition, exposure to early life stress is thought to disrupt the body's feedback systems that help re-establish stability after we are exposed to stress. Increased long-term stress is also most commonly associated with an increased response to new stresses when they occur, along with an inability to recover from the effects of stress exposure. However, a competing proposal is that children's exposure to small amounts of long-term stress can act as a stress inoculation, improving the ability to cope with new stresses when they occur. The chart represents the Yerkes-Dodson law. It represents the notion that certain levels of stress promote growth. Research examining how behaviour is affected by short-term stress suggests that working memory, planning, and response inhibition are impaired by temporarily elevated stress, while other cognitive functions, such as rapid learning, are actually improved. At high stress, children are more distracted by superficial features of the environment, will find it harder to engage in planning and voluntary control of their attention, and are more likely to engage in habitual behaviours due to reduced efficiency of executive functions such as inhibitory control. Because of these individual differences, a positive challenge for one child may under or overstimulate another child, thus potentially reducing effective learning. The degree of stress responding that a child shows in a given situation can be influenced by whether a child knows that they will be judged by their teacher and possibly others in their class, and whether they understand how to complete a task. A key point is that although a child's perceived stress may not even constitute a valid stress from the teacher's viewpoint, it could potentially affect their receptivity to learning. Subtle messages from adults influence pupils' belief systems. For example, adding the word yet to what would be a negative sentence, "You haven't done it yet," effectively diffuses the negativity by suggesting that the child will accomplish it at a later date. Dweck's growth mindset model proposes two mindsets that influence motivation and learning very differently: the limiting, fixed mindset and the growth mindset. Despite the plausibility of the model, nearly half of the studies attempting to change mindsets found that the manipulations did not produce the measurable change on pupils' mindsets. Crum and colleagues propose that two different mindsets, the stress-is-enhancing mindset, embracing the challenge, versus the stress-is-debilitating mindset, worrying about the challenge, can affect an individual's stress response. The stress-is-enhancing mindset may lead to more positive outcomes than the stress-is-debilitating mindset. It is important to understand pupils' inter-individual differences to help develop more personalised training programs with a view to helping prevent pupils' stress-induced impairments. At present, however, there are no intervention studies that have explicitly tested the effectiveness of this approach. Small but significant effects of reductions in depression, anxiety, and stress have been found following mindfulness interventions with children and adolescents, potentially operating in part through a reduction of stress, although there is currently a lack in the quantity and quality of evidence. Although a few preliminary studies are suggesting that deep breathing may help primary school children to be more resilient when under stress, more robust research is required. For children experiencing stressful home environments, breakfast clubs may help in delivering safe, nurturing school environments and nutritional support. In principle, they could also improve learning outcomes during the first two lessons for those vulnerable children who have experienced stress before arriving at school, by providing more time for delayed chemicals that suppress learning to dissipate, and therefore offer a buffer between home environment and learning activities. However, systematic evaluation of this possibility has yet to be carried out. It has been proposed that physical exercise may benefit children's cognitive function by altering their stress-related physiology, with associated changes in activity levels of various signaling molecules in the brain. In addition to direct effects of physical activity on stress responses, there are also various indirect routes through which physical activity is associated with reduced stress, such as exposure to fresh air, natural light, social interaction, and taking a break from work. Playing in team sports may also provide social support and reduce psychosocial stress. While an environment can cause stress in children, it is also important to understand how stress can then influence how children interact with their environment. This is particularly important because, as we have seen, elevated stress reduces children's ability to deploy focused attention in a noisy, chaotic environment. Much credit to all of the sources and authors from which I've reported on their work. For further information, please feel free to leave a note in the comments. If you found this video helpful or informative, please click the like button. If you want to see more videos on education and neuroscience, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.